Hello and welcome to Food Lovers. I'm Chef Mark Gregory and today we're cooking the perfect steak. Two ways, the New Zealand Australian, searing it, and also the European way. And you're going to like this, not a little, but a lot. Now for me, the perfect steak, there are three stages, and cooking a steak at home is important these days because it's a luxury and none of us want to get it wrong. So how do you know when it's rare, medium, well done, and all those things?
Now you're going to show us because you're the chef and I'm really happy to have you along. It's great.
Well, to know when it's, we'll go into the cooking in a moment, but very simply, when it's rare, just bring your forefinger and your thumb together, push that piece of thumb there, and it's nice and soft. Medium, bring the fingers together, no pressure, it's a bit squidgy, and when you bring your third finger, it's actually rather firm. That's almost identical to the steaks.
Seriously? So that is going to give me a well done steak.
Yes, it is.
So that's my third finger along from the thumb,
it is.
Fourth finger along from the thumb.
Rare, medium, well done. It's a guide.
Perfect.
It's a guide. We'll also go into cooking times. Now, how do you cook the perfect steak? Unsurprisingly, it starts by choosing the steak.
Okay, so here in front of you, you've got 3 pieces of Scotch fillet.
We have. The second thing you look for is the marbling. The marbling is the fat that naturally flows through the centre of the steak. Now, what that does is the aging keeps it tender, the marbling keeps it moist.
Okay, so I've chosen this meat. You didn't know what you were getting when you arrived here today. Is my choice okay?
I tell you now, it's a bit too young.
It's a bit too young.
It's a bit too young.
So
ask. But the thing is, very few people go along to the butcher or the supermarket and actually ask how look. So, and it's not about expense, it's about asking the right question. Now, the good way to cook a steak is bring it out of the fridge 15 minutes before and bring it up to temperature. Because the colder it is, the more difficult it is to judge.
For sure. Because if you've got it at room temperature, then you're going to have an even temperature all the way through. So you know when you cook it, you know what you're getting, as opposed to something that's been in the fridge for ages and it's still possibly going to be too undercooked in the centre.
You've got it. And sometimes if you like a rare steak and it's come straight out of the fridge, it can actually be not a nice temperature to enjoy in the centre. Okay,
so this is room temperature. There's a bit of shine on here. Have you given that a little bit of rub with oil?
We're going to be cooking it 2 ways. Now for searing, brush the steak with oil and don't oil the pan.
Okay.
And searing is really what we do in Australia, New Zealand, California. We're also going to be cooking a steak in the European way in a pan like they do in Spain, Italy, France, and making a quick sauce at the end of that. Okay. However, choosing the steaks and seasoning them is the first thing.
Okay, so we've got our steak here at room temperature. You've got a pepper grinder.
I've got a pepper grinder, and personally I like to give it plenty of pepper. And what this does, no salt at this stage because salt actually draws out the moisture of the steak and can help make it tough.
Really? So that much pepper?
Yes. You won't taste it all. You won't taste it all. What this does, there we go, a little bit of oil I think. Now don't be frightened of using your hands because your hands are the original tongs and the original spoon and the original fork.
I'm with you.
And for millions of years...
My kids often eat with their fingers. And while I try and tell them that they're not allowed to do that in public, that is what we were evolved to do, was eat with our fingers. And there's something really lovely, don't you think, about that finger-to-mouth connection?
Look, you have to feel it. I mean, cooking is a science, but it's also feeling your way through things.
Sure.
So, pick it up.
You've got a really hot pan.
We have a hot griddle pan here. Now, this wouldn't matter if it's a barbecue or griddle pan like this. So, the steak is oiled, put it on.
And you know it's hot because you've got a really good sizzle going.
I could actually have that just a touch hotter.
So now that it's on there, and where are we heading to with this one? Are we going to do a medium rare steak?
Yep, we can do a medium steak. Now, a rare steak, you would cook a steak like this for about, on a really hot pan, 2 to 3 minutes each side.
So 6 minutes total cooking time, 5 to 6 minutes.
Correct.
And if we wanted it medium rare, what do we do?
I would say 4 to 5, maybe 6 minutes each side. So you're talking 9 to 12.
All up. Gosh,
all up. And then for well done, what you do with well done, you start it on high and then you turn down the heat.
Right.
So 2 minutes each side to get the caramelization of the meat, and then turn it down a little bit and cook it for another, so probably 4 or 5 minutes on a high heat, both getting the colour.
Yes.
Then turn it down and cook it another 4 or 5 minutes each side to really ensure that there's no blood inside.
Okay. So while that's cooking, we've got another frying pan here.
We do.
And this is going to be your European
This is the European. And this is where, in a restaurant, in Europe, this is often how it's done.
Okay, so you've got oil in the pan as opposed to, the first one we had oil on the steak, now we've got oil in the pan.
Yes.
And you're going to put butter in there as well.
I'm going to put butter in there.
We're talking about like a knob of butter?
Equal quantity.
Equal
about
quantity
a tablespoon of
a
each.
tablespoon of butter to a tablespoon of oil. High heat again.
Yes, I want to get that a little bit hotter.
Okay, there we are. So we've got a good high heat.
And you can hear it, it's chuckling away, it's quite happy. Okay, now aim for some colour, because where there's colour, there's flavour. Just think of toast, white bread versus toast. When it's toasted, far more flavour, same with the steak.
So that's the whole reason for getting a good brown crust on your steak, is because essentially it's flavour, is that right?
It's good eating, it's flavour, it's good eating.
And we like the texture of it, we like that crusty bit on the outside,
Absolutely,
don't we?
absolutely. I'm getting to the point where I need to turn this now. Do you know what, the French and the Italians, they've got something in their culture, but both will end up tasting lovely.
Okay.
There's no two ways about that. Now we're going to begin flavouring the steak now. So bruise some thyme.
When you say bruise it, you've rubbed it in your hands. Is that all you have to do?
That's all you have to do. It brings out the oils, brings out the flavour. So again, you get more flavour.
If you don't have thyme in your garden, what else would
Rosemary
you use?
or sage. Those woody, earthy herbs, perfect. Right. Because we're also going to be doing a 60-second sauce.
Tell me, shallots as opposed to onions, why? What's the difference?
It's finer. They've got a finer flavour.
So a more gentle flavour?
A more gentle flavour, and believe it or not, they're not as sweet as onions.
What about, so shallots are not as sweet? So shallots wouldn't be what you'd use to caramelise. They don't caramelise as much as onions do?
I don't think they caramelise as well
Right.
myself, although they do caramelise because there's still sugar there, but they're not as sweet as onions.
Now you've chopped up your shallots, you've got some onion,
garlic.
garlic there as well. Sorry.
And this is slightly Italian here.
Okay.
So drain off steaks out, resting.
Yep.
Very important to rest the steaks. That's the third part of it. Rest the steaks
For
so
how
they're enjoyable
long?
to eat. 2 to 3 minutes is fine.
Okay.
Right, into the pan with the shallot, garlic, the thyme,
Goes back into the pan.
goes
okay.
back into the pan. And there's no real science with this, just cook the shallots for 1 minute. I actually quite like them if they've still got a little bit of bite.
A bit of crunch. And also too, because they're not as strong as onions, you don't need to get them really soft. They're fine. Right, you put a good slosh of balsamic
A good
vinegar.
slosh of balsamic vinegar. And back to the butter.
More butter.
You're going to
We
love
like
me.
that. It smells good. It smells really, really good.
Mix in the butter. You don't have to add the butter. You can have olive oil if you like, but you can see it's moist. And we now have a kind of slightly sweet sour flavour. So let's bring the steak over to the bench. If you could clear
I'll
that
just
for me.
Clear everything out of the
Thank
way.
you very much. I need the spoon. Now is when we salt the steak. I like to use a flaky sea salt, and whether it's Malden or there's a Pacific salt we get here in New Zealand, which is marvellous.
Now, I know that this is the New Zealand Australian way of cooking a steak, which is putting the oil on the steak onto a really hot barbecue or grill plate and cooking it. And here we have the more European style with the butter and oil and the gorgeous shallots and thyme-infused buttery sauce on top. I know what I want to eat. I think we need to swap. You can have that one, I'll have that one.
Let's cut them. Have a look.
Okay. Oh,
There
that
we
is
go.
looking perfect. Can you see into that?
You wanted it medium rare?
Okay, should I spin it around there? You can see into that. Isn't that beautiful?
So there we have a nice rare steak and a nice medium rare, or medium really now.
Perfect. And that was all done in a matter of minutes.
It was, and the nice thing is you can see just put in some shallots with this sweet. Have a taste of them. Here we
I
go.
do need a taste actually. I want to have a taste of this shallot topping.
With the balsamic. Couldn't be simpler.
Yum. That is really, really, really good. It tastes like something you have
Wonderful.
at a restaurant. Perfect. Mark, thanks so much.
You're very welcome.
Great
Thank
to
you.
have you along.